no sign. I'm assuming, yeah. Who's doing it? Ralph or Matt? Matt, are you?
I signed it up for
Ralph,
Do you need this?
That's right.
You don't need that. That was what was in the frame?
I'm surprised it doesn't have a table in there because the water
So I don't think it'll be worth it
one still has
to
it.
make that big a deal.
Dr. Lopez?
Here.
Mr. Andrews?
Here.
Mr. Corbin?
Here.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Socio?
Here.
Ms. Guadagnino?
Here.
Mayor Womack?
Here, sunshine notice, please.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by publication in the Home News and Tribune on January 2nd, 2019, indicating that the North Brunswick Township Council holds regular meetings on the first and third Monday of each month at 7 p.m. at 710 Herman Road, North Brunswick, and agenda meetings on the second and fourth Monday of the month at the same place at 7 p.m. In the event a regular meeting falls on a legal holiday, the meeting shall be held on Tuesday night after said holiday at the same place and hours.
Madam Clerk, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's our privilege and our honor tonight to be able to present a proclamation to someone who many of us have worked with and admired and respected over the years, and who's done an awful lot of good things for our town as you look around our town as it exists today. I think during Dan DiStefano's tenure as the chairman of our planning board, he's worked with Councilman Davis as the council representative. He's worked with Councilman Socio as council representative, and he currently works with Councilman Andrews. And I'm telling you, working with any one of those three guys is worth a proclamation. But Councilman Andrews probably has the longest tenure and is our current planning board representative, so I'll ask him to do the honors. And I'll ask Bob and Carlo to come on down with us.
Which camera we got here? This one? Before I read this, I see members of the planning board here tonight. Those of us who have had the honor to serve with Dan, it's really been a special honor. He's become a great friend as well. Other things that Dan doesn't claim a lot of credit for things, but Dan has done a lot of things for the Township of North Brunswick that he would prefer that, people don't know about, but I can tell you firsthand that he's contributed an extreme amount of time, money, and public service to the town, and he really deserves a great deal of recognition. He's just a great guy, and he coins great terms like spaghetti sandwich and things like that. We've had a couple of judges rule against us because of some of Dan's comments at some of the meetings, but all in all, his tenure on the planning board has definitely had a major impact on the way that our town is formulated, and all the positive things that you see. He's certainly been a major contributor and part of the team that has contributed to making North Brunswick a quality environment to live in and a great place to live. So let's read your proclamation. This is a proclamation by the Mayor and Council, Township of North Brunswick. Whereas the Township of North Brunswick recognizes that volunteers make up an enormous difference in the community, and that North Brunswick is grateful to have many, and whereas after 26 years of steadfast community service, Daniel DiStefano is stepping down from his role on the North Brunswick Township Planning Board. Dan was originally appointed by Mayor Paul Matacera in January 1993. Whereas Dan was elected to serve as chairman of the planning board in 2005 and has been re-elected annually by his peers to continue serving as chairman for the past 14 years. And whereas under Dan's leadership and guidance, the planning board has contributed towards making North Brunswick a vibrant and sustainable community. And whereas we recognize that quality and character of life in our community is reflective of the concerned and dedicated efforts of those individuals who devote themselves to the welfare of the community and its citizenry. Now, therefore, we, the mayor and council of the Township of North Brunswick, do hereby proclaim our appreciation and respect to Daniel DiStefano. We wish him good health and happiness, and hereby commend his 26 years of distinguished service to the Township of North Brunswick. Congratulations, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's not often I'm a loss for words, but I think tonight's one of them. But I never really considered it an effort or a job or anything. I always considered it a privilege. I was happy to do it. It was very, very rewarding. I think North Brunswick is a great community. I've worked with some great people that are up here and some that are not. It's just been a really great experience. Life changes, time to move on, time for some new blood. But I was always honored and considered it a privilege to do that. I was lucky enough to be appointed by 3 different mayors. One of them took a little prodding, but we won't go there. But with that, I want to thank you all. Mayor Womack, you're hiding over there in the corner. Thank you. Carlo, my old friend Bob Davis, my good friend Bob Davis, and of course Ralph. We've been at it since day one, and there have been a number of times when Ralph and I disagreed, but we always worked it out, and it always came back better for the town. We always came to terms. I still sometimes think about when we got the approval for the shop right on Route 130. My God, we worked those people over. Anyway, thank you one and all. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
This is on Garrett's team, yeah, the district finals.
Playing right now?
They're down 3-0, yeah.
We appreciate you coming in tonight, Dan. Is there any member of the council who'd like to have any items removed from this evening's consent agenda?
Yes.
Councilman Lopez?
Items T and U.
Ms. Monzo, are there any hard and firm time restraints on either T or U that we need to know about in having a discussion?
No.
Okay, great. Anybody have an objection? Anybody else want any items removed from the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve consent agenda items A through S and V through AA?
So moved.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Corbin?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Socio?
Yes.
Ms. Guadagnino?
Yes.
And Dr. Lopez, we will list T and U for further discussion at the next agenda meeting. Is that what?
Is that
what
what-
you
Yes,
desire?
yes.
Thank you.
We're not passing one away? No. Hold on a minute.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of our regular
Wait a minute,
council?
wait, Mr. Mayor, hang on a second. What are we doing here? You mean to tell me that we're tabling the 108, the clerical union's contract and
Salary.
the salary just in one? Well,
were
I
pulled, yes.
thought, I didn't realize that we had an issue with the actual ratification of the contract, so I would suggest that we at least move T, and if like, we need some more clarification on you for the salary adjustments, and things like that, that's fine.
Okay,
But I would make a motion to approve T, and put that up for a vote, and then go to you, and if, you needs to be tabled, let's table you, but let's move along with the contract at least, and do that.
Is there a second to go ahead and put T back?
I'll second it, Mayor.
All right, Councilman Socio, could you, clarify the distinction in your mind between T
Well,
and U?
my belief, because item T is the actual ratification of the contract. Item U, to the best of my knowledge, unless I'm wrong, and I need someone to tell me if I am or not,
Salary adjustment.
are the salary adjustments. Now, we can go ahead and pass the contract, give the employees who have been waiting for their contractual raises and the other benefits, that part of it. To me, T and U are not mutually together or exclusive.
Right.
So, again, I want to move forward, pass the contract, which I believe which I believe that the majority of us are in agreement with. And then, if if it is Councilman Lopez's prerogative to table you, I'm not going to argue that. Let's table that, take another look at the salary adjustments, and then do that at the later date. But at this point in time, I think that we need to ratify, or need to pass Resolution T.
And I can offer Councilman Lopez, with regard to T, council's authorization means that we can go ahead and sign it, but I won't do so until you've had an opportunity. We've had an opportunity to discuss it a little further. If you've got some questions,
Mayor, with all due respect, I don't like passing something when a member, well, you're a lawyer, I'm a lawyer, when a member of the council wants the opportunity to look it over again. Because once you say, we approve it, and then if there's more of a discussion like we had back here, which is a longer workshop than we anticipated.
But Councilman Corbin, can I just say something?
Let's let him finish.
I believe that, and I could be wrong, Will, I need you to tell me if I'm right or wrong. I believe that your biggest concern is with the salary adjustments. Am I wrong?
Correct.
So the salary adjustments, the bulk adjustments, the market increases are item U, correct?
Maybe personally, I may just need some time for more of a in-depth explanation.
For the salary
like you just said, yes. Like
for the
you just
market
said, I am
adjustments.
not a lawyer, so I don't necessarily understand all.
I don't have any problem, Councilman, with, since we're not dealing with another workshop until the end of July, that having discussions, and then when we pass it, make it retroactive to July 1st, which we can. I don't see any legal problem with that. My problem is saying, yes, we agree to it, and then.
but if we're going to discuss going back and reopening discussions with the union on the contract, that will be closed session.
Yes. I would even suggest, Mayor, that since we're having budget negotiations, and I think July 15, 16, 17, whatever those dates are, maybe we can have a special meeting to discuss this, so we know ahead of time.
Is there a particular problem with this particular contract?
No, I don't.
That's what my point is.
Dr. Lopez wanted more time.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
in the past, when we do a vote, it's not an automatic yes, 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 yes. There have been times in the past where some on the council voted yay and another council person voted nay. So it had nothing to do with that. It doesn't mean that we all automatically have to vote yes for
We
something.
have a first and a second. We need to vote.
Well, and again, just before we close the comment period, because I believe this is the comment period after the first and the second, I don't believe that T has to be passed or tabled along with you. I believe that the biggest concern, and because I believe that the collective bargaining process for item T has run its course. I believe that the negotiation was done in good faith, but I understand where there may be some concern in item U with these market adjustments. I mean, we're looking at raises for certain employees of up to $10,000. So I understand that concern. So, I mean, I guess Councilman Lopez, Councilman Corbin,
I guess I will agree with you, Carlo, that then if we're holding it up, then the major thing that I wanted to discuss was the adjustments. So that's okay with me. But once again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't understand the ramifications of all of that. So I think moreover, I just want to discuss the adjustments.
right, so I'm not a lawyer either, but we're going to ask this guy to the left of me here, can we pass T without passing U? Is there anything tying U to T, besides the fact that they're in the same union?
No.
So,
They stand independently, so let's talk procedures for a minute here, folks. So we've got, you've adopted your consent ordinance minus items T and U. As of right now, you have a motion and a second regarding item T to approve item T. Item U, you have not dealt with yet. They were pulled off of the consent agenda. You need to consider them separately.
Right.
But they are not, although they are linked, they are not inextricably linked.
Right.
You can
Thank
do
you.
one without the other.
Thank you. Is there any further comment? So
we need a roll call on T.
we're voting on passing item U.
T.
I'm sorry, item T.
Yes, sir. You have a mover and a seconder to approve item T.
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Corbin?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Socio?
Yes.
Ms. Guadagnino?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, in light of Councilman Lopez's concerns with item U, I'd like to motion to table item U until the next agenda meeting so that we can discuss it further.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Corbin?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Socio?
Yes.
Ms. Guadagnino?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of January 3rd, 2019?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 7, performance bond resolution.
This one, this is the one with the police, this is the police wages.
Oh, I'm sorry, that should not be on there.
Okay.
That should be removed.
Okay. Ixnay on the Evans.
Ordinance, first reading and introduction.
Number 8, ordinance for first reading and introduction, number 19-17.
Number 19-17, first reading and introduction, an ordinance deleting and amending articles within Chapter 352 Water Utility of the Code of the Township of North Brunswick.
Is there a motion to introduce ordinance 19-17?
So, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
on some of these, is this the ones that we need to correct some of the schedules?
No, that will be 19-19, I
Okay,
believe.
these are the things we already...
Yes, it's not on the agenda that we have in front of us, but it would be added as ordinance number 19-19 for
Okay,
first
second.
reading and introduction.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Corbin?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Socio?
Yes.
Ms. Guadagnino?
Yes.
Ordinance for first reading and introduction 19-18.
19-18, first reading and introduction, an ordinance of the Township of North Brunswick amending Chapter 238, Peace and Good Order, Article 1, Disorderly Conduct.
Is there a motion to introduce ordinance 19-18?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Corbin?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Socio?
Yes.
Ms. Guadagnino?
Yes.
And now to do Councilman Andrews' points, ordinance for first reading and introduction, ordinance 19-19, which we received earlier in our agenda session, and it's the one that says an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Lisa will say it, but it's the one that starts ordinance amending Chapter 276 Sewer, Section 7. Release.
An ordinance amending Chapter 276 Sewer, Section 7 Sewer Rentals of the Code of the Township of North Brunswick.
Is there a motion to introduce ordinance 19-19?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Corbin?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Socio?
Yes.
Ms. Guadagnino?
Yes.
Actually, what's the table? Always, I'm sure.
Your time is up, Lisa.
Is our time up? All right.
Go sit down.
Ordinance for second reading and public hearing, number 19-14.
Number 19-14, second reading of public hearing, an ordinance of the Township of North Brunswick repealing and replacing Part 1 Administrative Legislation, Chapter 6-1 Personnel of the Code of the Township of North Brunswick.
Is there anyone who'd like to be heard in public hearing on this ordinance 19-14? Is there a motion to close that public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 19-14?
So move.
Wait, hold on. You're adopting?
Is that A?
There. Yeah.
Is that the one you wanted?
There is some discussion about whether we are rushing this, and that maybe we should talk about it again before we adopt it.
Well, if we have a second, we can talk about it, or if there's no second, it won't go forward. So either way, it won't go forward.
One second.
No second.
No second?
Second.
Okay. Is there discussion? Council President?
Can I ask something?
Sure.
There was a desire to not have a second to...
But we do have
Or
a second.
what I'm going to ask, what is the procedure now? Now we're voting it up or down? If we vote it down, then
We can
we're gonna-
still-
Or can we vote to still
We can still motion to table.
motion to table? All right, with the look, then I'm going to make a motion to table the ordinance so we can discuss it further at the next agenda meeting.
Okay.
You can
Okay,
do that
I'll second that, Carl.
Okay.
Okay.
So this vote is on the motion to table.
Table.
Correct.
Is there any discussion on the motion to table? Roll call, please.
Dr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Corbin?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Socio?
Yes.
Ms. Guadagnino?
Yes.
Ordinance for second reading and public hearing, number 19-15.
Number 19-15, second reading and public hearing, an ordinance of the Township of North Brunswick repealing various chapters under Part 1 Administrative Legislation of the Code of the Township of North Brunswick.
Is there anyone who'd like to be heard in public hearing on this ordinance, number 19-15? Is there a motion to close the public hearing on ordinance 19-15?
So moved.
So, second?
Discussion? Roll
Quick
call.
question, point of
Yes,
order. Ron,
Sir.
is this one nexus to 14 such that if this passes, does it affect what's happening in 14? Are they married directly, unlike the other one we talked about?
I do not believe that they're married.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Second.
Is there a motion to close we have a motion, a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 19-15?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Corbin?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Socio?
Yes.
Ms. Guadagnino?
Yes.
Based upon your comments earlier this evening, Councilman Andrews, did you want to make a motion to table ordinance 19-16?
Yes, I would, Mayor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Dr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Corbin?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Socio?
Yes.
Ms. Guadagnino?
Yes.
Anybody have any reports this evening? Comments?
Yes.
Yes, Council President.
Tomorrow night at the Green Turtle between 4 and 10, there's a fundraiser for Heritage Day. I don't have the flyer in front of me, so what's the name of the band?
The Weaklings.
The Weaklings will be playing, and the Green Turtle will donate 20% of sales back to the township as a fundraiser for Heritage Day. So please join us tomorrow, 4 to 10, at the Green Turtle.
Did I see that if you don't make it for the band, I can't make it for the band, but if you go to dinner starting at 4, That's when they start to donate back?
What time is the band?
And it's 7 o'clock.
The band is at 7, but you can go anytime between 4 and 10.
And it's a good chance for anybody who wants to check out the new Marriott to take a look at that as well, because it's really nice in there. Councilman Davis?
Yes, just to bring up again, tomorrow at 2 p.m. at the RAC is the high school graduation, MBTHS, and it's the first time it's been there in a long time. It's been down in Trenton, so it will be at the RAC, and it starts at 2 p.m.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, on Wednesday, July 31st at 6:30 at Babbage Park will be our first edition of the summer concert series. The band is Tempo Alegre, bringing the salsa. This is a free event, and there will be food and non-alcoholic beverages sold at this. And bring your lawn chair and blanket and come out and enjoy some good music in one of our parks, and bring your family out. The other two dates are Wednesday, August 7th, which is the B-side, which is a soul band, and then Wednesday, August 14th, which is Full Throttle, which is a rock and roll band. So we look forward to seeing you on July 31st, and at the other Wednesdays out there.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Anyone else?
Just quickly, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow night, if you're interested in seeing the Weaklings, which one of the members is former lifelong township resident Glenn Burtnick, I would suggest you get there early, because they're a fantastic band, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that know about it, and I'm sure the place is going to be pretty crowded. So I would definitely go see them, because they're outstanding, but I would suggest you get there early.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. People who I've run into in court who only know that I live in North Brunswick. I've had two different people tell me, oh, I'm going to be in North Brunswick to go see a band on Tuesday night.
Unfortunately, they won't end up in jail, so they can still go there, right?
Well, that's true. I made sure they got bail. Thank you, Councilman. Is there anybody who'd like to be heard in public hearing this evening? Yes, ma'am.
My name's Dorothy Quayle, and I'm here tonight to speak to the mayor and the town council about the need to reestablish transparency and accountability in government operations. This was triggered by an encounter I had on June 17th, a week ago today, with the North Brunswick Department of Public Works. I discovered that a worker had trimmed branches from a tree on my property without my knowledge or consent. I was shocked about this because in 2008, the town council promised me that I would be notified if there was any need to trim any of the trees on my property. This was because of an incident at that time in which the township was responsible for botched landscaping that ruined every single tree lining my street and left the debris for the residents to clean up. I approached the worker to ask what was going on. He kept the chipper running the whole time, so I had to speak really loudly to be heard. The first thing he said was, "That's not your tree." I replied that I wasn't sure about that, but as the owner of the property behind the tree, I had the right to know what was going on. I asked him if he was going to trim the trees in front of my house. His response was, "I'm working alone. I was trimming trees, and now I'm using the chipper." When I repeated that I had the right to know what he was doing, he became angry and said, "Why are you taking this out on me?" I was really troubled by his failure to answer my questions, so I asked him for his name. He wasn't wearing a name tag, and he didn't bother to respond. He just announced he was going to call a supervisor and walked away from me. After the call ended, he ignored me, so I had to approach him again and I asked what was going on. He said his supervisor would be arriving shortly. I decided I'd call the DPW myself while I was waiting, and the woman at the DPW who answered couldn't tell me if the DPW was involved. She told me to call the mayor's office, and I did speak with Janice, the mayor's assistant, who said she'd look into it. 30 minutes into the incident, Scott Coons arrived. He told me he was not the supervisor, but had come out because the DPW supervisor couldn't be located. He was really courteous, and he actually took the time to listen to me. He told me that the DPW was in charge of the operation and that I would be contacted by Eric Chazar at a later time. About 10 minutes later, Eric Chazar himself appeared. He was very annoyed and gave me an unwanted and unnecessary lecture about how busy the DPW was. He stressed the fact that the only reason the DPW was trimming trees in my neighborhood was because someone had filed a complaint. I asked who filed the complaint. He said he didn't know. I then asked about my major concern. Were there any plans to trim the trees directly in front of my house? Mr. Chazar didn't answer. He did tell me that employees are not supposed to speak with residents in order to avoid confrontations. And as per this policy, workers are to call the supervisor and not speak with the resident. Mr. Chazar also informed me that residents are to call the DPW instead of engaging with the worker. I didn't ask him how I was expected to know that residents aren't permitted to speak with DPW workers, and I also didn't mention the fact that I did call the DPW and that no one there could help me. I told Mr. Chazar that as the property owner, I had the right to know what was going on, and that I was especially concerned about preserving the curb appeal and the property value of my home. I asked him what he would have done if he had come upon a stranger trimming trees on his property without his knowledge or consent. He did not respond. I also told Mr. Chazar that neither he nor Mr. Coons would have had to come out if I had known what was going on. I then asked Mr. Chazar to follow up with 2 questions for me. 1, who filed the complaint about the trees? And 2, are there any plans to trim the trees at the front of my property? Mr. Chazar said he'd get my contact information from Janice. I called Janice to give her my email address. It's been 7 days and I have yet to hear from Mr. Chazar. In addition to the 2 questions I asked Mr. Chazar, I have a few more issues. I want to know why the DPW worker didn't follow policy. I want to know why he wasn't wearing a name tag and didn't present any form of ID. I want to know why no one in the DPW knew what was going on when I called. I want someone in authority from the North Brunswick government to provide a written answer to my questions and also confirm that action will be taken to ensure that the DPW is operating according to policies which include transparency and accountability. This unfortunate incident demonstrates what happens when local government operates without transparency and accountability. Based on my experience, I can tell Mr. Chazar why residents become irate when they deal with the DPW. The DPW trims trees on private property without the knowledge or consent of the owner and then stonewalls those owners who demand an explanation. Local government is not exempt from transparency and accountability, and transparency and accountability apply to both elected officials and non-elected personnel. That's why property owners should be notified of landscaping complaints. The identity of the complainant should not be a secret. The owner should be given sufficient time to respond to the complaint. If the complaint's valid, the owner and the DPW should coordinate the landscape work. And the resident should also be permitted to perform the work at their own expense if they so choose to avoid a debacle like we had back in 2008. To further aid in transparency, the township should post the DPW landscaping policies on the website. Thank you.
Dr. Quayle,
Yes.
to be clear, this tree was actually on your property? It's a tree that's one of your trees?
There was a debate about that in 2008. The tree that was trimmed last week is located on the strip between the curb and the sidewalk. I maintain those trees. I maintain the grass. I maintain the sidewalk. I remove the snow from the sidewalk. So if the government owns the tree, as the worker claims, North Brunswick has a great deal because I do all the work. They come and hack away at the tree whenever they feel like it, which directly impacts the curb appeal of my house. So it's a major concern regardless of who owns the tree, and since I've spent considerable expense in the 19 years I've owned this house, I want to say, and if those trees are going to be trimmed, and I am willing to trim them at my own expense. In fact, I have trimmed the trees at my own expense in the course of 19 years. So it's just not right. I don't really care who owns the trees. I want them to look nice so I can sell my house. And that's the bottom line. And in any event, this was totally unacceptable. No transparency, no accountability, and where is Mr. Chazar?
The event that you've described is not acceptable as you've described it. But the first question is, it seems that you raise is notice to a resident when we're going to be trimming a tree. And so it's an important distinction then, I think, whether it's a resident tree or a tree that's on township property that may not trigger the notice requirement.
Well, that remains to be determined, as numerous members of the council have said. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a physician, so what do I know about who owns the tree? I can say, though, with the expense I've laid out over 19 years, trimming the grass in the area, maintaining the sidewalk, removing the snow from the sidewalk, and trimming those trees myself, I want to say in it, because any of you who happen to own property in the town would be concerned about the trees that face their house and that seem to be on their property and they've been kicked, spending money on for 19 years. So the residents should have some input. And I made it clear to Lou Ann Benson in 2008, because Parks and Recreation was handling the tree trimming at that time, that I would trim the trees myself if given proper notice. And I will pay rather than go through a botched landscaping job.
And you would have liked to have received notice on this time?
Yes, PSE&G does it. And I'd also want to know who filed this mystery complaint. My mailbox happens to be located in the same strip of no man's land. Am I going to come home sometime and find it disappeared because an unknown person filed a complaint they didn't like my mailbox? This is getting a little strange, and again, it goes to transparency and accountability. For the amount of taxes I pay in this township, I want to preserve the value of my home so I can sell it. If the house looks horrible because the trees have been hacked to pieces that flank my driveway, the entryway to my home, that's a major problem for me, and I think any of you that own property would feel the same way.
Mr. Chazar, do you want to respond now, or as Dr. Quayle's indicated, do you want to aid in the preparation of a written response?
First, I'd like to apologize because I've been at meetings the past 3 days.
Come on up. Come on.
Good evening. First, I want to apologize because I've been at meetings the past 3 days of the 7 that have perspired since we've talked. The resident was on the back street of Luke. If you took Luke down to the end and made a right, a left, Larch. It might be Larch. He's on the corner of Larch. I have the request, okay?
I mean, I feel you could have delegated that to someone. I'm very well aware that you're a busy man. But the way your worker treated me, and I also say that he was wearing hearing protection and kept the chipper on the entire time, even though he wasn't working. When I called the DPW, I had to go in my car, and the car dampened some of the sound, but the woman could barely hear me because the chipper was going while he was leaning against the chipper looking at his cell phone. I mean, talk about, I don't know if that's my time's up, but...
It is, but that's okay.
I've got to, thank you for listening.
Yes, you're aware of the facts of the incident?
Yes.
And you know whoever it was, none of us know who it was?
Yes.
And it's a personnel issue, so we're not going to go into it in a
correct,
public
sir.
meeting. But if you would let myself, and then at a next closed session, let the council know what your investigation revealed and what your determinations are.
Absolutely.
And what actions need to be taken.
Absolutely.
And we need to also address, there's formal written policies, and then there are procedural unwritten policies.
Sure.
The policies about interacting with residents that were relayed to Dr. Quayle, if we can look into those and determine whether those are formal policies, informal policies, and if they're not formal, do we want to make a formal policy, see what we want to do, so we can address that as well.
Absolutely.
And I do want to find out if there's any plans to trim the trees in front of my house, because that was the cause of the 2008 problem. And again, I will trim them myself if there's a valid need to do so.
Okay, Dr. Quell.
I knew nothing about this 2008 agreement that went on when, we were trimming the trees.
I understand,
so.
but if you would, so the council and myself can be clear on where we are, if you'll get us all the information as to what occurred, what our policies are, whether we should make better policies in your opinion, and then we'll put all that into a letter to Dr. Quayle and address it, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. For those of you...
Yeah, if you just state your name and write it down.
For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Jonathan Watson, Township employee. I'm also the shop steward for Local 108 for the union. I've been an employee here 15 years. I just want to express my frustration with the salary adjustments and the market adjustments. I think that myself, the other shop stewards for the union, the business administrator, spent very, very long time and worked very hard on coming up with a fair agreement. We have employees here who've worked here now going on 30-plus years, and in the last 10 years haven't seen more than a 1.5% or 2% raise. It just gets frustrating. It's just, we're not a huge union. We don't have a lot of people. I don't think it's that big of a request. And I wasn't prepared to talk. Didn't think that I was going to have to. But sitting here and just having the opportunity, I just wanted to once again express my frustration. And I know that if anybody has any questions onto why or how we came up with the numbers we came up with, feel free to contact me, reach out to me. I'm next door every day, 7 days. We checked with surrounding towns. I did a lot of legwork myself. I know other people did the legwork. I know the business administration did the legwork to see what other towns were making for the clerical staffs, and I thought we came to a very fair agreement. And just to know it's getting tabled again, and we have people who are waiting for this and just going to have to keep pushing it back, and it's affecting a large amount of people. So that's...
So, sorry, go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Go ahead, Councilman.
I don't think that this is any intention to delay any of that. We had a change in our meeting schedule, and because we now have a meeting schedule, which is something that we're supposed to be approving bill lists quicker, we've had the last couple of meetings where we have a meeting at 6:30, and then we're supposed to come out here by 7:30. On those particular agendas, we had lots of things to discuss, and so the time frame in between, we normally would have another full meeting where we would discuss some of these items, and I think a lot of the council members either didn't understand or didn't get clarity on some of these issues. So we just wanted to, in my personal thing, I think it doesn't just maybe affect your group, but I think there's other positions in the town that are other jobs which maybe aren't market. So in my view, rather than it's rather subjective if the group that's looking for the increase does the analysis and presents the analysis, as opposed to having maybe an independent group that's not the council making some arbitrary decision, or you guys presenting something. I myself would like to see an evaluation of everything, because we want to remain competitive in town. We want people to make fair salaries for what is market conditions. We may have not looked at these over, I don't know how many years, So I think the best process would be to have someone independent, not have, somebody make phone calls to other towns to really have an analysis of what these are. And then if we're going to make these adjustments, I think we should fairly make these adjustments, because this way, once we know that the salaries are correct, there's lots of other benefits and things that happen in municipal arena in the past, which have been done because the salaries were not great. So I think we should look at the whole process and then make it, as we go forward, make it totally fair in both arenas, because as you know, you pay taxes just like everybody else. that's the number one thing that the taxpayers are concerned with, is what costs of government are and why people get certain raises, or why people, and, you know, you hear things that are unfairly said about municipal employees, which we don't agree with. So we always want to make sure that we have good answers in that for the people when they ask us the questions. And in my view specifically, if I think I made a decision which is based on good analysis and good information, you know, I'll defend you guys, and I'll defend it to any way I need to. So that's mainly the reason. It's not a negative thing. It's more of a positive thing that we just needed a little more time to, I think, clearly have the analysis that I think we need. And I'll speak for myself, but I think others have some of the same feelings.
I appreciate at least an explanation of some sort, something I can go back to my bargaining unit with.
And just to add on to that, the contract was approved.
Yeah, I understand.
It's just, and we just want to make sure that it's right. We didn't have much backup. It was just a chart, and I mean, any numbers could have been thrown in there. We need something to show us what it is, and we're not against it by any means. We just want to make sure that it's right and accurate, and so it's not that nobody's getting them, it's just, we just want to make sure that the numbers are accurate before we do it.
We wanted to get that increase out because we know baby food prices are going up, and we
Yes,
know
it is.
you have to pay for that stuff.
Yes, so daycare too. So, but thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else want to be heard? Mr. Nastas?
First of all, I'd like to talk to Mr. Gordon. At the last meeting, when I suggested that they get code enforcement, when they're checking cars, get license, registration, and everything, I didn't mean for that to be publicly exposed. I meant that as a tool for code enforcement to verify or not the legal status of the vehicle.
Still violates constitutional protection, sir.
Well, a police officer stops you for speeding.
He's a police officer, he has certain rights. Code enforcement are not police officers.
So
they're enforcing the criminal laws. Code enforcement is enforcing civil laws. They do not have the same search, and they do not have the same power based upon probable cause to perhaps go further in investigating civil incidents as police officers do regarding criminal incidents.
See, I didn't know that. I thought that would be, a good tool for the code enforcement person to determine whether or not it was legal status or not. But now you corrected me, thank you. Second question is, on that piece of legislation from the state requiring cars to be registered within 60 days?
Yes, sir.
Is that contradicting the ordinance requiring, eliminating one car as not having to be registered?
No, they're totally separate. Doesn't contradict each other. One's a state statute, one's a local ordinance.
Can a local ordinance supersede a state?
Absolutely not.
Does that?
No.
It doesn't?
No.
The state says you have to register, and you're saying you don't?
No, don't twist my words.
Pardon me?
Don't twist my words. That's not what I said.
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
Okay, so if you want to ask me, then I'll answer your question.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. If a state regulation says they must be registered or running whatever, titled, and you're telling me we passed an ordinance that says, no, you don't have to do that?
No, I didn't say that either.
I didn't say you said it. I'm asking you.
Okay, so would you like me to explain?
Yes,
I'll
please.
try.
Okay.
And maybe I can make it clear that the registration requirements for motor vehicle code is a state statute. It is statewide. Local ordinances as to what property or what vehicles can be on your property is a local ordinance. It only goes through the jurisdiction of North Brunswick. The fact that you have violated a state statute may subject you to criminal penalties or quasi-criminal penalties for the motor vehicle code. The fact that you may have violated a local ordinance gets you a municipal court summons for a local ordinance violation. Whether you have registered your vehicle with the state or not is a separate issue than whether or not you have unregistered vehicles on your property. They're totally separate issues. They have different standards, they have different penalties, they have different investigatory requirements. That's the best I can give you.
No, that's fine. I hear you. The other thing I want to thank is our administrator. I had a little chat with her a few days ago, and I told you about the toilet on the property and the car on the grass. That toilet was gone like that. The car is still on the grass. And part of our discussion, you told me that code enforcement works with a complaint or someone that has fractured, bent, broken one of the ordinances, and you work with them to resolve it. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. My question is, how long do you take to resolve a situation? I mean, is it 1 week, 1 month, 1 year? Is there a time limit at all on any of it?
Well, I don't think there's one answer to that question, because again, I think different complaints and different violations cause a different reaction in terms of that.
I
So
understand.
obviously, if there's, health
Well,
or
generally
safety.
speaking, would you say 6 months is relatively?
And again, I wouldn't say that, because I can't give a blanket answer to, just any general complaint that's coming in.
So
I think it
basically-
depends on the complaint, and, the context in which I said that to you was sort of our policy of looking at complaints that come in, and that we take more of a customer service approach for a variety of things that might come in as complaints. And so, but, and again, part of the process is that they're all looked at and investigated when complaints come in, and then a determination is made as to, maybe perhaps priority, and maybe perhaps the type of violation that it may or may not be. Some instances, complaints come in and they're not even real violations. The person believes they are and, have made the complaint in good faith, but, it turns out that it may not be a violation. So again, I don't have one answer for you on your question.
Well, I was thinking usually it doesn't take more than 6 months or a year to resolve something, I would think.
Again,
Generally speaking?
I can't ballpark your question. There is no answer for it.
That's fine. I can understand that. You don't want to make a commitment. You don't want to make a commitment on that type of answer. Yeah, that's fine. Let's see. My next question is, I know the mayor's top, you're next to the mayor, right, in the chain of command? And the rest of the directors report to you? Okay,
Loosely, yes. And again, it depends on what you're talking about. I have certain authorizations, but that's given to me by the mayor. The mayor has
what I'm
all the
asking is if a complaint, someone wants to make a complaint, they give it to you and you disperse it, whether it's to DPW, code enforcement, rental, or?
Yes. It depends on the complaint, yes.
Okay, good. All right. Well, I had a couple of phone calls. They called me to ask about these situations, so I'm going to just put it out. 1467 Seneca Road. There's 4, I drove by to make sure of the situation. There's 4 vehicles in the driveway, and there's no plates on any of them. And on Axel Road, there's no number on the house, so I can't give you a house number, but the car is parked on the grass next to the fence, which is part of the school.
Okay.
All right, that's about it. Oh, and someone called me this evening about Thalia Street. They said that someone came out and cut the grass around the fire hydrant, but they didn't clean up the rest of the street. So I don't know who did what, where, when, and how. I didn't go by to look at it, but they said, you know, they thought the rest of the street from the fire hydrant to the vet's office was going to be clean 10 feet in, and I think Mr. Shazar told me that the corporation owns the property. I don't know. I don't know who owns 10 feet in, 10 feet out, or what the garbage is there. Just thought I'd tell you. Now, my own question, King Tut. Are you familiar with King Tut?
Yes.
Go right ahead. Nobody else is, did you want to speak this evening? Nobody else wants to speak.
All right, well, I was going to ask about what's going on there.
I'm not sure what your question is referring to.
Well, there was a dumpster there for, the 4th dumpster, I think, was there for about a month. A code enforcement officer came by while I was cutting the grass, and he was supposed to inspect something, I don't know what, and he asked me about it. I said, I don't know, they're working on it, they're doing something, I don't know what they're doing or how they're doing it. And that was last week. The dumpster was gone today, miraculously. I don't know who did what, where, when, or how, but the rest of the places, they've been working on it for the last 6 months. So I don't know what they're trying to do or how they're doing it. And I do know that they're expanding. Well, my question is, where are all their potential customers going to park? They got capacity of a couple hundred and parking vehicles for 20 in the parking lot, and the rest are going to be all over the neighborhood.
Again, I'm not sure what your question is, so, other than
The question
what's
is,
going
what are
on
they doing
there.
and when are they going to finish it? They've been working on it for 6 months.
I don't know off the top of my head what they're working on. We can check to see if there's permits pulled and whether they're being complied with.
There's permits pulled, they're working on it.
Right.
There has been inspections, but is this going to be going on for the next 6 months, or are they going to come around and finish it? And
Sure.
that's not that important. How about cleaning up the yard in the meantime? If you're going to delay production or construction, clean up the garbage laying in the parking lot. Like I said, that 40-yarder was the first one to leave, and that was there a good month.
Okay.
And the other questions I had about it were, I know they're not allowed to have liquor there or food. Are they allowed to sell food or have customers bring food in? I don't know. But they have 2 dumpsters, smaller dumpsters that are there that have been utilized in that. Instead of a hookah lounge that just has smoking, you wouldn't need 2 those dumpsters. You can put a couple garbage cans out to put your ashes away. Well, I know, you don't have the answers right now, so I'll see you
Correct.
during the week. And when you're available, we'll sit down and chat.
That's fine, please.
Okay?
Yes.
You're all right. I take back everything they said about you.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Nastas. Is there anybody else who'd like to be heard this evening? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Just all in favor? Is there a motion to adjourn our meeting tonight?
Second.
All in favor? Everybody have a good night.